what is the bare minimum in terms of systems, contents, and funnels that you should have in place in order to maximize the launch of your podcast?
All right, in order to maximize the launch of your podcast, you have to have 3 systems in place. Number 1, your pre-launch. How are you going to be gearing people up for excitement for your show that's actually going to be launching in the next week? Next up, actually have that all set up. You have social media posts, whose groups you're going to go into and asking questions and answering them as well as where you're actually going to be even sending people after your podcast is launched. You need to be actually giving them that free stuff and everything to get them attracted. That's not only in, hey, I'm going to give you these free types of trainings in the podcast, but as well as afterwards, go here and get your PDF or get your trainings, whatever it is. I usually recommend actually not doing the PDF route, but instead doing trainings, because it takes less time for you to record yourself talking than it does to actually type up everything, make sure it all looks good. I'm terrible at punctuation. Fletcher, you're nodding your head, so I think you can relate to that a ton as well. And people just don't read as much. But if you actually record it and then even do supplemental offers after that, it works a lot better. And we'll talk about that a ton as well, more in the training. But another thing you need to make sure you're doing is when you actually launch your podcast that week, what episodes are going to go live, and as well as how are you going to drive traffic to those episodes across your various platforms. You have cold and warm traffic sources. Cold is basically where you're going to your social media profile. Warm is hopefully when you have your own list, your Facebook group, or even people who are at least solution aware. Basically those Facebook groups that you don't own, but have your audience there. So that's gonna be a great place to kind of go into to get that traffic. Lastly, as well, you have to make sure your post-launch strategy is maintaining that excitement. This is something everybody is failing at right now because they post, oh my gosh, my podcast is going to be launched. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be loving and excited for it. And then like 3 months later, they're like, hey, remember my podcast is still live. Click here to go to it. And the people are like, you have a podcast? I completely forgot. And they're probably thinking the same thing of like, oh my gosh, I forgot too. I've posted like 10 episodes in 3 months because people don't have that pre-launch strategy nailed out of what am I going to be talking about? What are my actual podcasts that are going to be launching? So before you get to either that launching week or that post-launch week, identify what's at least 10 episodes I can have stocked up before my podcast goes live. So that's kind of what I would recommend in your pre-launch stages of how to make sure your podcast has the most success.